put funny stuff in a cup and, see which way the colored stuff went, and then that was divining. Jesus spent all of his time doing what? Teaching. Because the expectation was that you have a brain, you're reasonably intelligent, and you can think for yourself. And what has happened in this country, and what has happened in many places of the world, is people have given up their... And it happens in the Muslim religion, it happens in the Jewish religion, it happens in all religions. People sacrifice their ability to think, and they become one mass standing there listening to some person tell them. But what did Jesus say? Go to page 881 and look at the book of John, John chapter 15. In John chapter 15, Jesus makes a statement that is interesting. John chapter 15:3. You are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. In other words, it is the teaching that have made you clean. You can meditate and you can meditate and you can meditate, but if you have no knowledge, if you have no understanding, it's not going to do you any good. Because you're not, what people do? People to this day, and religion is part and parcel, one of the culprits of this, go into meditation or they go to church actually thinking that they're going to be saved out of all kinds of trouble. And there's never going to be any more trouble. And as we said this morning, there has never been a person who has set foot on the earth who became religious, who became blessed, who became healed, and it's saved and they never had any trouble. All meditation can do for you, all that God can do for you, all that church or religion can do for you, is to get you prepared for the next battle. Because it comes down the road as sure as you breathe. Once the storm is done, it rained like cats and dogs, I would assume here, over the last couple of days. You think it's not going to rain again? Get prepared. It will rain. It will snow. Storms will come. Winds will blow. They will have. That's the nature of things. But we create this insanity. It's all over. You're saved. You'll never have another bad feeling. You're never going to be screwed up again. It's ridiculous. You are. But you're going to be prepared to deal with it. You're going to be prepared to handle it. And so this is what Jesus was trying to teach. This is what Mohammad was teaching. This is what Christian was teaching. How do you work? How do you operate in this world? You operate in a world of opposites. You operate in a world in which energy is created by friction. You operate in a scientific principle. If you don't like it, it doesn't make any difference. It's not going to change for you or for me. You have to learn how it operates. And some days you feel good, and some days you don't feel good. And some days you're up, and some days you're down. That's the nature of the sea. There's a wave, and then the wave goes back to the ocean, and there's a calm. There's sunshine, and there's a storm. And this is what life is. So you can't have people who get up and tell you that you're going to have a new life. You're not going to have a new life. You're going to understand what life is, and you're going to understand what the world is and how it operates. Oh, God. Now, what thesis, then, from what we're talking about, that AHMED HULUSI is talking about when he talks about Allah? No God ever existed. And then there's something else. No God ever worshipped. Ever existed. No God ever worshipped ever existed. Only Allah can be thought. What does that mean? No God ever worshipped ever existed. It means there is no God to be worshipped. It means there is no God to be worshipped. There is only Allah, and Allah is not a God. And you know what? You don't even have to go any further than that. You know this is right. Because now we're getting into the very scientific principle of how energy is created, how positive and negatives enter within, and what is the purpose then of life for each one of us to rise above and so forth and so on in the greater. But Muhammad asked mankind not to worship any God. Not to put your future in danger by hoping in vain for help from an imagined God. And everybody, without exception, has hoped for help from an imagined God. And if the thing turned out okay, you got it. If the thing didn't turn out okay, you never questioned it, but you went hoping for help the next time you got screwed up. Listen to that again. Don't put your future in danger by hoping in vain for help from an imagined God. As I continued to study this, it came to me that the word God is simply good with an O missing. And if that is the case, and if Allah is all there is, then we seek all there is that is good. All there is that is good is what we seek. You can put whatever name you want to put on it. You know, people put Jesus on it, which eliminates them from having fellowship with half the rest of the world, who puts Mohammad on it, who puts Donahue on it, who puts Buddha on it, who puts... and put whatever name you want it, but when it boils down to it, you're seeking that which is good. And this is what you're trying to manifest. And why did we start seeking to worship some God? Because thousands or hundreds of years ago, maybe, we were surrounded by unexplained phenomena. Things happened. We didn't know what they were. And we had strange people who were totally ignorant of science, and they attributed all of these things to the gods. There was a time when venereal disease was a plague from God, until they found out that God's plague could be overcome with penicillin. And all of a sudden you realize about what germs are and what transmittable diseases are, and you don't lump them into all of these bizarre things. But we look at, and so what do we do? In those ancient times, in those old times back in Middle Age, instead of searching for reasons, they looked for help. Mm-hmm. There was no science, so we're going to look for some God to bail us out of this thing. And what we did then, we took action, and we took refuge in the group instead of taking action in our mind. Don't take refuge in the group, because the group is as much as you are. Take action in your mind to try to solve the problem. Get away from the group and try to solve the problem within yourself, because that's where the problem originates in. So what we've done in the end, then, we have created a strange being in a fictitious expectation of some kind of favor if we do this. But you know you've done it. You have gone to church. Why? So you wouldn't go to hell. That's the only reason you showed up. Because you were told you're going to go to hell, so you showed up. Otherwise you wouldn't go. There's a devil. They created a devil. That's enough to send you to church. So whatever phenomenon comes into the life of man that we couldn't figure out what it was, we didn't know the nature of the mystery, we couldn't explain it, it became an image of God. And we started to have faith in it, you know. Storms were God. I was even told as a kid God was mad or boning or something when there were thunderstorms. Because I was living with